research that you do, that we do, how much science is too much science in a book? I know that in my own experience, my first book, Infected, there were 25 pages of exposition on a particular way that of memory recollection and where things were stored, and the editor was just like, yeah, no one's going to make it through this. I'm like, but it's fascinating. Like, maybe to 10 people it's fascinating. So I've had to learn how to gauge that. What do you find? Is there a point where you want to keep telling people how it works, but then you're like, okay, that's slowing down the story? How do you define that?
I have a girlfriend. She's not that big on the science.
Mm-hmm.
If I hit the point in the chapter where she says, honey, I'm kicking you out of the bedroom, I need to cut half a page of science. This works quite well. Seriously, I believe in overwriting and cutting. I'm a pruner.
Mm-hmm.
So I will write page upon page of science, and then I have readers that go through and tell me when I am getting repetitive, when they don't care anymore, when the science has become unnecessary, when the measles do not do anything to forward this plot. You do eventually learn. I've gotten better about cutting it myself, now that I'm on the fourth of the medical thrillers. But since my passion is the science, I have to have that external set of eyes, or I will just keep sciencing until I die.
I watch for my wife to skip pages.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing? Well, this is boring. But I spent a year and a half on that particular part right there. Yeah, but okay, just good words. Okay, so that's my benchmark. How about you? What do you find?
Well, like I said, I mean, ultimately it's a thriller novel, and so the main trick is entertainment. But yeah, I mean, I have the same frustration because what's entertaining and fascinating to me, I mean, yeah, I spent like a year learning this stuff, and damn it, I want to give you 12 pages, and I'll even break it up with some car chases and a helicopter chase, and then we'll have hot sex in the alleyway, and then I'll give you 2 more pages of science, right? And they're like, no, I have a sister-in-law who's the same way. I mean, in Plague Year, at one point, there's about a page and a half where the super intelligent nanotech genius just kind of lays it out. I mean, I squeezed the entire field of nanotech into like 700 words, and she's like, it was just so slow sometimes in the book. I'm like, it was 700 words, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating stuff. I can't just melt your face again and again. I want to give something to you. So this book that I just finished. I got a little too carried away with like astrophysics because it's just fascinating stuff. But you have to take like the entire like the history of the universe and squeeze it down into like a paragraph. Yeah. And I did it, and I was like,
it's a long paragraph.
Yeah, no, it's a very long paragraph.
It's the length of the book.
But nevertheless, one paragraph, and I'm like, I've done it. I've summarized like the entire history of the human race in one paragraph, and now I can get back to the next helicopter chase. But then after the helicopter chase, exactly, I don't want to knock it over. Then I'll add 2 more sentences about evolution and the history of planet Earth and all, and then have some more gunfire. And you got to kind of just sort of, but for me it's really because once I get into it, I want to do the 25 pages. But my favorite example of this is Michael Crichton's Prey, and we're not writing textbooks, and I didn't think that was that good of a novel. It had its moments. But it actually had like those 25-page chunks of just sheer exposition, just info dump. It was like, this is how nanotech works for 25 pages straight, and you're like, oh, okay, what's happening here?
Well, as a writer, it gets to the point. Like, imagine you're a farmer and you're growing pumpkins, and you collect 1 ton of pumpkins, and you get to sell 2 pounds of that, and the rest of it just gets to sit there. And you're like, what did I do all of this for? And a lot of times, that's what the research is like, going through to understand how something works, and then understanding how it works within the filter of how do I explain this in a way that will carry a story, keep people interested. And the amount of stuff that goes in the scrap heap is just depressing. I mean, there's really no other word for it. I've got for the book Nocturnal that's going to come out, it was rewritten top to bottom 4 times, and I have a giant green 3-ring binder that's like, it's about 17 pounds of stuff that just didn't make it in. Drafts that I wrote that didn't make it in, research that didn't make it in, and I try not to look at it. It's behind it's in a cupboard, so I don't have to look at it because it makes me sad.
Can you talk about world weaving? Because I understand, as a reader, I don't want to read 25 pages of any one particular thing, but can you talk about how you weave your worlds so that they are at once believable in terms of the science, as well as remotely interesting as far as the characters? I read science fiction for the science and the characters as vectors off the science, but I would like a believable world as well. So can you talk about how you weave this alternate world into your stories.
Ooh, me. Ooh,
Go.
yeah. I like the
Mr. Horshack, continue.
I like the remotely interesting, and I grew up, this just total science fiction, and where the characters were almost incidental,
Yeah.
because it is the world and it is the fascination of the otherworldly. This is what we're learning. This is different stuff, and it's alien and it's interesting, and the guy is there and he's cool and you're following him. But one of the tricks that I've tried to learn, or hopefully I've mastered, is that if you can make the characters. If you draw you into the characters and then you're following the person instead of the world itself, and then you're seeing everything through their eyes, and it's kind of that simple trick, whereas if it's interesting to the character or important to the character or affects the character and how they're reacting to the world, I try and do it all through their eyes, and especially if they're in a tense situation where everything's on the line, I can keep slipping in, a paragraph here or a couple sentences there, continuing to build that world, build the science, the technology, the ecology, the biology, all this kind of stuff, just in little pieces of time, and especially if I can change them up a little bit, where I talk about one topic for a couple sentences, we're still having our interpersonal drama, and then it comes back to, well, if I make this decision, how will that affect me tomorrow? Will I have enough food? Will there be enough air? All these things. So it's trying to do it through the lens of the character. So for me, as the science fiction writer, the people have actually become more at least. Yeah, exactly. And so I'm still writing these books because I'm interested in all this stuff. All these different fields of science and whatever. But if you can do it through their eyes, that's become my keyhole.
Mira, how about you?
I spend a lot of time looking for cat hair. I have 2 Maine Coon cats. They are gigantic balls of hair that destroy my things, and I love them very much. They're my first long-haired cats, and when I first got them, I honestly did not think through some of the side effects of having gigantic long-haired cats that can open doors. If you go to my house, it's clean, but there are hairballs in the corners. All of the cat trees have been reinforced with rebar. The cat dishes are actually dog dishes. And these are changes that the cats have brought about by being a new factor in the house. Well, when I kickstart a zombie apocalypse, I look for the cat hair in the corners. If you're having to take a bleach shower every single time you come into the house, the smell of pledge becomes the smell of being safe. Because the citrus-based lotion that swimmers use to prevent their skin from drying out after they've been chlorinated and bleached over and over again smells just like lemon pledge. Everyone is blonde after the zombie apocalypse. Because, again, you're bleaching yourself continuously. If you're dealing with a fomite-based zombie apocalypse, then all of the idiots who go out to kill zombies with swords right at the beginning have died off, and martial arts are essentially extinct. And it's all chasing cat hair into corners for me. Once I have the science, once I have the new cat in the house, I can look at how the house is going to reshape itself around that cat, or how the world is going to reshape itself around that horrific apocalypse. And my cats are horrific apocalypses, which is why they are relevant to this panel.